नमस्कार। MA Philosophy MGP 005 Unit number 2 Block number 1 Unit number 2 Understanding Peace, Well-being and Justice. No civilized society can thrive upon victims whose humanity has been permanently mutilated. Those we keep down inevitably drag us down. We insult our own humanity by insulting man when he is helpless and where he is not of our kin. One of the component of UNESCO's culture of peace program stipulates the ending of the exploitation that has characterized the culture of violence and war, slavery, slavery, colonization, and economic exploitation. It further stipulates to replace culture of violence by cooperation and sustainable development of for all. This component distinguishes the culture of peace from a static conception of peace which perpetuate the violence of the status quo and links it intrinsically with social justice and the changes necessary to attain and to preserve it. This component of the UNESCO's Culture of Peace program draws our attention to three important factors. First, the conception of peace. The program projects is not merely the absence of violence, uh, eschewing the idea of negative peace, that is, the absence of violence. It posits a dynamic conception of peace. The program projects is not merely the absence of violence, eschewing the idea of negative peace, that is, the absence of violence. It posits a dynamic conception of peace. This conception posits the idea that a society must have the capacity to solve problems without resort to violence. Second, for the creation and preservation of positive peace requires equitable, if not equal, distribution of economic resources so the material needs of every person is assured. And lastly, if these two conditions prevail in society, social justice will also be assured. The UNESCO views definite linkages between peace, well-being, and justice. Peace is necessary for human flourishing. Without peace, life becomes a constant struggle in the interior of man, and struggle with neither external forces which the individual cannot see or nor control. Whatever the cause that disturbs peace, the resilient state of affair is unsettling and threatening to human composure. The reason for this lies in the fact that when peace is disturbed, predictably is lost. Once the normal tenor of life is breached, psychological stress combines with material difficulties in capac- uh, capacitate the individual in meeting the challenges of life. It is also clear from the UNESCO's Culture of Peace program that for the preservation of peace, equitable distribution of economic resource is a necessary condition, but it can be said that the prevalence of peace, even positive peace, is necessary for human well-being and justice. Two objectives can be raised in this connection. First, it is meant by sustainable development. In general, it refers to a kind of development that does not allow destruction of natural resources. It must stop a point where the danger of ecological degeneration arises. This further means the fulfillment of needs must stop at the level where transformation, manipulation of nature does not harm nature. If this is true, then where does that level that level lie? Also, if an eco-friendly attitude is acquired to fix that level, how is that attitude acquired? Secondly, in relation to the necessity of positive peace for ensuring human well-being, the justice, how is capacity to find solution to an emergent problem with the possibility of violence earned. possibility of violence are in this context. We have to be clear about the substantive meaning of such terms as peace, well-being, and justice. It means that one can put any content in these terms depending upon ideological inclination, individual prediclination, and digest. Hence, the necessity to understand them, aims, and objective. This unit will enable you to understand worldviews, belief system, underlying conditions, salubrious to peace, well-being, and justice. Alternative ways of viewing man and his world. A critical appraisal of worldviews and belief systems. Relationship between peace, well-being, and justice. Meaning of the terms. In view of the questions raised above, it is necessary first to clarify the substantive referent of the term that constitute the title of this lesson. Whatever meaning we attribute to these terms, we have a definite connection with worldviews and belief system. In addition, there is also a question of the condition that must prevail in society to allow a beneficial relationship to obtain between the real situations these terms denote. It is necessary to explore the following: the three terms peace, well-being, and justice that constitute the title of this unit are not very easy to define. These terms can take on any meaning depending on the circumstances and personal preferences of the person who uses these terms. Thus, these terms have to fixed, unalterable meaning. This meaning changes to one person to another depending on the prevailing fashion of opinion and ideological commitments. If therefore makes it necessary for us to give exact significance to these terms before we can talk sensibly about their interrelationship. In addition, we should also define exactly the way they are related to each other. For example, can it be said that in all circumstances when peace prevail, human well-being and justice will be assured? If not, what kind of relationship obtains between them? Moreover, can it be taken for granted that peace is an autonomous phenomena and does moreover can it be taken for granted that peace is an autonomous phenomena and does not need nourishment for such sources as say worldview and belief systems? Meaning of peace. To begin with, let us begin with the term peace. Peace was taken earlier to mean the absence of organized violence. This prevented scholars from looking at peace as something broader than the cessation of hostilities between two and more nation states. As a result, peace tended to be defined negatively as the absence of war. The fact is that the term peace can also refer to individuals, groups, and societies. Two other factors need to be mentioned here. In the first place, peace can also be characterized as static or dynamic. By static, peace is a meant a social situation in which nothing changes and no violence is taken resource to for settling differences whenever they arise. In contradiction to this, dynamic peace refers to a situation where differences and disputes do occur, but they are settled non-violently. In the second place, in fact, that dispute do occur, but they are settled non-violently, suggests that there can be no eternal peace. But we can very well visualize that they exist peaceful societies which are characterized by two distinct attributes: one, disposition to eschew violence for settling dispute, and two, certain institutional mechanism geared for settling dispute non-violently. Thus, disputes do occur not only because of conflicting claims of entitlement, but also because of the feeling that some aspect of the social order are unjust or inappropriate or downright useless. This calls for change, and change is always upsetting. Resistance to change may invite violence and the possibility of the upsetting of equilibrium. However, the two distinctive attributes mentioned above come into play in peaceful societies. Continuous issues are satisfactorily resolved and a new equilibrium is established. This is what is meant by dynamic peace. It signifies balance in movement. It is this meaning of peace that is important for our purposes. Significance of well-being. The term well-being too is subject to different interpretations. Broadly speaking, these two are completely divergent perspectives. One emphasizing the achievement of felicity through the caseless through the ceaseless satisfaction of over ever proliferating material needs. These material needs are involved with the process of production and reproduction. The acquisition of wealth, power, and prestige are now counted as the most important factors that everyone should seek to realize. It is on this basis alone that man can, it is claimed, ever hope to become happy. If not contented, contentment is something that must not allowed to deflect man from the pursuit of happiness through the satisfaction of material needs. It is also presumed that it is only through the satisfaction of material needs that the way to cultivating morality, if not sociality, opens up. To satisfy his material needs, man has to interact with nature with the help of technology. Interaction with nature gives birth to a system of production that grows hungry for natural resources. As it grows and expands, as economy grows, man's need proliferate. This gives further fillip to economic growth. It is in the process of this dynamic interaction between needs, technological advancement, and nature, and that man realize his hidden potentialities and become moral. That is he developed the capacity of deciding what is worth doing and what is not. This perspective creates a notion of order and the idea of what happiness and therefore well-being consist in order. On this view is grounded not in any a priority principle for frictionless coordination of diverse and usually incompatible interests. It consists in a set of interlocking elements whose relations can be explained in terms of efficient causation. The order in things consists in their meshing without conflict and distortion applied to human realm. This means that man comes to realize natural order when a company of subjects come to achieve full satisfaction, happiness, each compatible with others. In contradiction to the view of man as merely a body mind complex, there exists another view which treats man as a man which treats man as a member of the cosmos. The term cosmos signifies a world which is not only fully ordered but also happens to be the source where from man derives his sense of truth, meaning, and value. The real purport of cosmos is not only that it is an exemplar of order. It is at the same time also the source and cause of order, in particular being that constituted. It is true that the source of order in the universe is always referred to as beyond the comprehension of the senses. It is supported to be something that cannot be known by man's ordinary sensory faculties. It can only be experienced. The creator of the cosmos is considered to be the unseen, the dividing being. Its experience is ineffable. It is this ineffable experience that becomes the source of installing order in man's interior. Once man's interior is ordered, he requires the capacity of freeing himself from the slavery of many masters. That is, that is his appetites and passions. When man's soul is attuned to the divine ground of reality, he develops what Plato called synoptic vision. That is a capacity to establish a principled relationship among various goods as well as among various components of the external world. Without it, man's soul loses its discriminating, regulatory, and disciplining power. Appetites and desires fill the gap vacated by the withdrawal and suppression of the ordering element. Integration of different capacities of the individual as well as with the cosmos is disrupted. The consequent order of the soul lead to what Plato calls pragmosine, the readiness to engage in multifarious activities which are not one's proper business, and allotrio progmosine Medilmenes of Opsius, a interference. The attunement of the soul to the divine ground of reality acts as a transformative influence. It initiates the process of self-development, leading to the to the ultimate aim in life, that is self-knowledge. This brings about a radical transformation in man's outlook towards his own self, towards others, and towards the external world. The process of self development is also instrumental in excavating the soul from its entombment in the passion of the body. It brings home the necessity of what Plato calls so sophrosyne, that is the capacity by which men learn to know and remember the limits of human power and ambition. The realization of some sophrosyne checks the tendency towards uh, ple- pleonexia, that is self aggrandizement. This further means the termination of rebellion against God and the death of hybris, the feeling of omnipotence. Once man is rid of his hybris, he becomes aware of several things. First, he becomes aware of the fact that he must put his interior in order by curbing the waywardness of ID and put his passions through strong leash. The capability to put one's passion under under leash is symptomatic of the man's capacity to discriminate between what is proper to do and what he must not do. Second, the capacity to discriminate has the two important referents. Uh, one one of these referents has to do with the health of his own self in term of limiting his wants by curbing his passions. The other referent is his fellow beings whose interest must not be harmed by his actions. In other words, he must have the intuitive knowledge of what he must do in order to bring about and maintain compatibility between the good of one individual and the good of all individuals. And lastly, he becomes capable of eschewing instrumental attitude towards nature and consciously seek to promote a nurturant view by refraining from despoiling and exploiting nature. It is then obvious that the substantive meaning of well-being is radically different from that projected by the view of man as merely a body-mind complex. Well-being in this perspective means the establishment of a salubrious balance between man, society, and nature. This means curtailing those wants whose satisfaction signifies voluptuousness on one hand, and the treatment of society and nature as potential means for the realization of one's purpose on the other. To lead such a life is to become swastha in the Vedic sense of the term. That is, a person remains healthy by anchoring his self, that is touched by the flesh of eternity. It is a swastha person who is capable of securing his own well-being and that of society and nature. Justice and its meaning. Multiple significations are also true of the term justice. To begin with, earlier the term justice was used as equivalent to righteousness in general. It comprised the whole virtue and signified complete conformity with the approved pattern of moral conduct. Plato saw justice, for example, in his Republic, as the key virtue that regulates and equilibrates other virtues. Its functions were envisioned by Plato to achieve harmony and to maintain equilibrium. To do these things, reason Sophia must rule within the psyche, and reason's embodiment, the elite guardians, must rule within the state. Justice results from each elements in society doing the appropriate task, doing it well, and doing it only. When we come to Aristotle, we find him restricting the term's reference to a particular virtue, distinguishing, for example, between justice and equity, or between justice and charity. Later, Plato's influence can be seen in philosophical writings which concentrated on the tension between a justice as an impartial application of established substantive rules, and b justice as an ideal criterion for judging and evaluating such rules. in whatever sense we choose. Both of them involve what we know as substantive justice. However, there is yet another extremely important logic in which the term justice is literally used. According to common experience in every species of economic and social activity, the problem of justice is at least as likely to arise out of say being condemned without a hearing as out of being condemned under an unfair substantive law. In short, it lacks a procedural aspect. In the absence of correct procedure, any concept of justice may readily become a mockery. It is therefore necessary to consider justice to be residing also in the correctness of procedure for judging any issue. Procedural justice consists in employing correct methods to develop rules for conduct, to ascertain the fact of a particular case, or to devise a total appreciation, absorbing rules and facts into a final dispositive judgment. It is true that errors in interpreting laws and facts abounds earlier. However, since the 18th century, judicial processes have undergone noteworthy reforms and advances. The procedural criteria compendiously known as due process of law have improved sufficiently in most countries, especially in mature democracies. What the due process of law signifies is that no one must be accused of violating a rule of behavior unless he could have ascertained the existence and meaning of the rule before he committed the challenged act. When accused, a person must be told the ground on which he is accused. The accused is entitled to have a fair opportunity to collect and present his own evidence, of course, with the help of a counsel. He is also entitled to a fair and free trial. Moreover, even if a person has found guilty, he must be given the opportunity to go to higher courts for reconsidering the case for and correcting any serious error that comes to light. Given these different connotations of the term justice, our task here is to determine which one meaning should be apt that suits most in the modern age with its emphasis on freedom and equality. Procedural justice comes into effect only after laws relating to proper conduct have been passed by legislature of a country. The basis of procedural justice is to fit a particular law to certain facts of arriving at a particular decision. Procedural justice is concerned only with applying a particular law to a particular set of facts facts under dispute. It does not concern itself with the question whether a particular law is proper or not. The question of the validity of a particular law is beyond the understanding of procedural justice. Given this, it is quite conceivable that an impartial administration of justice can comport to an oppressive system of substantive law. It is true that the application of procedural justice highlights certain deficiencies in substantive law. As a result, substantive laws can be examined, reframed, and improved upon. However, the facts should not be ignored that a particular law at any moment signifies a balance between contending socio-economic and ideological forces. Most often, it symbolizes the victory of a particular preference over any other preference and of one power configuration over other power configuration. It is therefore necessary to go beyond the mere procedural justice. It is apt to recognize Aristotle's distinction between distributive justice and commutative or corrective justice. The former applies to the allotment of honor, wealth, and other social good and should be proportionate to civic merit. Commutative justice concerns remedial measures when two contending parties engage in a dispute over a merit of voluntary exchanges outside of the law courts. Distributive justice is concerned with meritorious achievements of the person distinguished by some excellence. It is basically concerned with honoring meritorious persons who are distinguished and distinct from common men. Similarly, Aristotle's commutative justice refers only to certain feuds between persons about entitlement, and the courts when it is approached for decision rules not according to any moral norms but according to the law of the country. Aristotle treated justice as immanent in positive law and gave it a markedly more effective function. However, we should note that two difficulties here. First, as has been already pointed out, the administration of law may go along with the very oppressive legal system. Second, none of the senses of justice in the Aristotelian framework deals with the pattern of distribution of social goods that is seen to be just because it takes into account needs and merits of the member of a uh, particular society. Worldviews on peace, well-being, and justice. What is it that determines whether a particular pattern of distribution of social goods according to needs and merits is just? The, the, the trouble here is that while merit can be determined objectively, worldviews on peace, well-being, and justice. What is it that determines whether a particular pattern of distribution of social goods according to needs and merits is just? The trouble here is that while merit can be determined objectively, needs cannot be so determined. Needs are subjective and there are no objective methods to ascertain them and measure them. Any so-called objective method will prove awfully inadequate because the standard of measurement will miss variations in needs articulation and needs fulfillment. Do we then say that that it is the problem that cannot be resolved and must be so? We should seek to resolve this question by linking the question of the relationship between needs and justice with worldview. In order to see the connection between worldviews and societies, we have to view it as a deeply embedded soul of all individual members, as reflected in the substratum of their life activities. It is because of this that society is capable of making and sustaining the awareness of its members of their identity, ideals, rights, and duties. It is also it is also because of this that it is capable of providing them with the opportunity and the means of living their lives and engaging in action in ways sanctioned by it. In the words of Pandey, every individual finds himself related with the tradition of knowledge and understanding as well as a network of relationships that are larger larger than their finite existence. If this tradition of knowledge and understanding can be characterized as culture, then the network of relationship can be called society. Man, as a being who is endowed with consciousness, is in this sense a resident of a social cultural cosmos that has an external form and internal consciousness. If the external aspect of society is concerned with the organization of work and play, the internal aspect, that is the world of culture, denotes principles and processes that give the world of work and play a definite shape. The internal aspect also controls relationships that develop among the members of the society. That is yet a third aspect that animates most societies. This is the aspect of society that symbolizes its connection with the transcendental entity by virtue of which a society claims to be a representative of truth. As Vogeland notes, human society is not merely a fact or an event in the external world to be studied by an observer like a natural phenomenon, though it has externally as one of its important components. It is as a whole. It is as a whole a little world, a cosmian illuminated with meaning from within by the human being who continuously create and bear it as the mode and condition of their self realization. It is illumined through an elaborate symbolism in various degrees of compactness and differentiation, from right through myths, the theory, and this symbolism illuminates it with meaning. Insofar as a symbol make the internal structure of such a cosmian, the relations between its member and groups of members as well as its existence as a whole transparent for the mystery of human existence. Thus every society has a symbolic aspect. The self-illumination of society through symbol is an integral part of social reality, and one may
even say its essential part for through such symbolization the members of society experience it as more than an ancient more than an accident or a convenience. They experience it as of their human essence, and inversely the symbols express the experience that man is fully man by virtue of his participation in a whole which transcends his particular existence. By virtue of his participation in the xenon, the cerebral commonality, as Heraclitus called it, the whole in which man participates is of course the cosmos as the projection of the transcendent entity itself. The term cosmos conveys three fundamental ideas. In the first place, it denotes that there are several worlds beyond the phenomenal world, the world of here and now, all of them linked in an organic relationship with each other. In the second place, the term cosmos signifies that it is the perfect example of order at the same time the cause of all order in particular, which only in degrees can approximate the whole. In the last place, man is just one instance of particulars that compose the whole as a part of the whole that is larger than the totality of the perceptible phenomenal world. Man is not self-complete and therefore not perfect. He becomes complete and perfect when, as Cicero observes, he contemplates and imitates it, particularly the source of order inherent in it. It is in contemplation and imitation of order inherent in the cosmos that constitutes the main spring of the internal, or rather the cultural aspect of any society, as every society usually but not necessarily can be viewed as composed of three layers. These three layers can, for the sake of convenience, be identified as a worldview engendering a belief system, b a interior world manifesting a cultural pattern that determines and regulates the world of work and play, and c the exterior aspect constituted by the structure and processes of work and play. Modern worldview of peace, well-being, and justice. Almost all traditional societies displayed all these three layers, which refers to different aspects of social organization. However, in recent time, beginning from 17th century, many societies turned their back upon their connection with the cosmos. As a result, man emerged as a secular being who, de- who depended who depended on his own capability and power to refashion himself and his world in accordance with his own preferences. However, in this process, the idea of common humanity tends to be destroyed, where what with it man also loses his wholeness. A fragmentary idea such as a European, a laborer, or belonging to a particular race etc replaces the universal idea of man, and the fragmented idea of man is attributed with universality and wholeness. What should also be noted in this connection is that when man is delinked with divinity, he claims to become godlike and arrogates to himself the responsibility of reordering the world so that it becomes useful to him. It is clearly reflected in the fact that God becomes the function of man. In the 19th century, Fairweather psychology of projection sharply pointed to this. All religious ideas, especially the idea of God, were conceived by Feuerbach as a projection of contents of the human mind into the beyond. But when we comes to Marx, we find man himself being declared as the surrogate of divinity. Marx pulled the psychological projections into man and man himself as God. As God he claims absolute freedom, but he is at the same time hedged in by freedom enjoyed by others. He seeks to shape and refashion the conditions of his own existence, but he is externalized in the process of interacting with the external world and emerges as a function of the world. He claims to secure happiness by amassing wealth, but he is reduced to the status of what Iris the Murdoch called broken totality and become the prisoner of his own avarice and suffers if he encounters setbacks. The regnant worldview is claimed to open up the highway for all the for The the regnant worldview is claimed to open up the highway for all to enjoy heaven on this earth, a heaven forged of worldly pleasures. However, the highway is unending, and the heaven tends to slip out of reach when it seems very close. Thus, the conception of well-being that is dependent on the extent to which a person is able to satisfy his ordinary life needs proves to be a chimera. Moreover, this worldview grants freedom to everybody. However, not everybody is equipped with the same merit and capacity. As a result, there exists wide gap between the efficacy and effectiveness of one person and that of others. This differential endowment of efficacy leads to a situation where acute inequality in the distribution of social goods reason. As a consequence, inequality of position in a situation where equality of position is deemed to be an ideal that must undergird the social order means perpetuation of injustice. And when justice is denied, conflicts become endemic and pervasive. And when peace is disturbed, well-being and justice to become scarce. When everybody is driven by an energy of his desire to seek what he wishes to have, it is claimed that personal as well as collective good will be adequately served. On this view, the one dynamic element in society in the self-defining project, who as the center of energy, enterprise and creativity serves to promote collective good by promoting and realizing his own self-defined purpose. Collective good is nothing other than the sum total of individual goods. In this perspective, individual actions are the expression of will caused by desire. According to this, the chain of prochial reasoning always terminates in some I want or it pleases me. Decisions made by individuals must not be influenced by any source external to him. However, action that please individuals need not satisfy the condition that they prove compatible with actions that other persons may decide to take. To the extent that this happens, that is, if actions of different individuals do not prove compatible, social concord is likely to be disturbed. It is all the more likely in view of the central importance of satisfying desires for securing felicity. The only consideration of the individual is to see that his desires are fulfilled. This exclusive concern with satisfying one's own desire does not include the individual to take into account whether whatever he wishes to do is harmful to others or not. In such a situation, auto control is sure to erode, leading again to the possibility of the disruption of social concord. In addition to the disruption of social concord, there is also the there is also the possibility of justice being tempered with, given the centrality of the position of earthly good. Everybody must claim mm, everybody must claim to have a certain share in collective resources, whether a person deserve it or not. That is what in the social science literature has been described as claims of entitlement. These claims are justified on several grounds. However, Aristotle term is uh, pleonexia, self aggrandizement, signifying a claim for certain goods even when a person's merit did not justify it. This is surely to create a big gap between merit and reward, making distributive justice a mockery. As a consequence, it is likely to breed dissatisfaction, disquiet, and dissension. Traditional worldview of peace, well-being, and justice. It is quite clear it is quite clear then that a worldview that pins its hope for securing peace and assuring well-being and justice by promoting and safeguarding individual interest only frustrate this hope. The principal reason for this, as Immanuel Kant realized long ago, is that it makes discord internal to human existence. It is for this reason that we must take a look at traditional worldviews in order to examine whether they are at all helpful to establishing peace, promoting well-being, and securing justice. It was indicated earlier that most traditional worldviews are characterized, in contrast with the modern worldviews, by three layers of attributes. By dint of this characteristic, society comes to be viewed as a cosmian. The most distinctive feature of a cosmian is its uh, ru- rootedness in the divine ground of reality. By virtue of this, it offers to its members the opportunity to attain his her higher nature by disciplining and controlling its base nature. If this opportunity is properly exploited, man can attain internal harmony, which then becomes the basis of harmony without, that is, between man and society and man and nature. Internal harmony is the only basis on which integration of man with the larger order becomes possible. To be integrated with the larger order is to sustain a social order as a cosmian. Such a society underlines the fact that society is a civilizational unit that constitute an arena where human consciousness, intentions, and purposes receive definite shapes and directions. The shaping of human consciousness, intentions, and purposes is not haphazard or ad hoc. Instead, it is inspired and informed by the vision of the cosmic order. As a replica of the cosmos, the social order is not only based on the principles that are seen to underlie the cosmos, the meaning man derives from these principles for informing and regulating his life and social relations, but also aims at celebrating these principles and values, preserving them in institutional arrangements and social practices. In such a society, a person does not live life; he becomes able to lead life towards attaining a higher purpose. When a person is conscious about his linkage with the divine ground of being, he treats every life activity as a vehicle of refreshing and renewing his attunement to the divine ground of reality. The worldview that gets its inspiration from its groundedness in the transcendental entity forges a society that treats cooperative, interdependent, and harmonious relationship among its different constitutive components as necessary. It is such a social order that Kumaraswamy calls a sacramental order in which there is need and place for all men's work, and there is no more significant consequence of the principle work is sacrifice than the fact that under these conditions every function from that of the priest and the king, mm, and, and the king down to that of the potter and scavenger, is literally a priesthood, and every operation is a right. The social order is thus conceived to be a system of interdependent, cooperative, and harmonious relations. The individual person is not a competitor for access to and control over uh, scarce material resources, but co-partners in managing the resources in such a way that the minimum needs for everyone are fulfilled. Another distinctive mark of such a society is that while uh, while immersion in materiality is considered to be inimical to the pursuit of higher life purposes, that fulfillment of ordinary life needs is not considered undesirable. As a matter of fact, the fulfillment of these needs is supposed to be in infrastructure for the pursuit of a higher life purpose. Further, the fulfillment of these needs is subordinated to the pursuit of higher life purposes. The subjugation of the conduct of pragmatic affair of life to morality is what proves to be the constitutive principle of social life and relations. Well-being in such a society does not lie in the case in the ceaseless process of satisfying one desire after another. What happens in such a society is that the worldview that underlies it and the belief system that it engenders puts a brake on desires and allows cooperation and harmony to prevail and flourish. Thus, when competition is replaced by cooperation, the fear that a person may be left far behind in the race of life is overcome. Contentment then constitutes a principal attribute of human existence. As far as well-being is considered, it lies in the extent to which a person succeeds in blending the pursuit of a higher life purpose with the management of the pragmatic affairs of life. Moreover, when society happens to be a system of cooperation and harmony, justice lies in everyone performing his assigned task as well. Assigned task well. What makes justice possible is the attitude of refraining from encroaching upon the area of others' responsibility. Summary: when well-being and justice are served, peace too become enduring. Thus, it is not mandatory. It is not necessary that the prevalence of peace will automatically guarantee human well-being and social justice. What is certain is that when well-being and justice prevail, peace is sure to prevail. These three can take on any meaning depending on the circumstances and personal preference of the person who uses these terms. Thus, these terms have no fixed, un- unalterable meanings. Their meanings changes from one person to another depending on the prevailing fashion of opinion, uh, zeitgeist, and ideological commitments. It therefore make it necessary for us to give exact signification to these terms before we can talk sensibly about their interrelationship. In addition, we should also define exactly the way they are related to each other. Thank you.